Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Sunday Sangha Metta Mindfulness Gathering.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All right. I don't know if it's my computer. Is it? Okay, we'll see. So go ahead and after saying hello and to our Sangha, you can start closing your eyes if you prefer. And you can just feel the impact of seeing friendly faces in your heart. Just checking if the heart can receive all that, or at what degree can receive it. Just check in with the quality of your whole being, with your heart to your mind. And slowly settling. Perhaps feeling your seat bones, feet touching the ground. If it's helpful, take a few deep breaths all the way down to your belly. Connecting with the breath as it goes in. Just following all the places that it goes. Just notice where the attention goes naturally, without forcing. And whatever it is, see if it can connect the attention with whatever sensation is there. Temperature, vibration. Relaxing the attention there. Just receiving. Doing nothing with full commitment. Sometimes it's helpful to make an intention to incline our mind, heart to kindness, tenderness, caring. for whatever appears during our sit together. Perhaps we start receiving sound, vibrations, just as they come and go by themselves. The wandering mind, thoughts about future, remembering, no problem. Just thinking. We start to notice that there is a sound, and it's so fast how the image of the sound or naming the sound comes. And just notice that that's just the mind working, designing, assigning names. And then we just receive the textures or vibrations of sound itself, just as it is, just as it is happening. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. And move the attention to our hands and see if there is this interest in just exploring and receiving what's the sensations in this area that we call hands. Tingly, numbness, cold, warm. One sensation or a flow of sensations moving. Appearing and disappearing. You can place a hand on top of your abdomen if that's easier for you. You can just feel the sensations. Of the rising movement, just as it is happening. Perhaps there is a thought, a body sensation, a sound, an emotion, in the falling movement. It's connecting the attention to whatever sensation is arising, not to the through the thought process, but really feeling them, receiving them, like listening to this constant flow of sensations. Appreciating the mind that it needs to be flexible, to move, to receive this flow of life, moment by moment, changing. Without trying to manipulate, fix, change. Sometimes there is this capacity of allowing phenomena just be, just as it is. Sometimes it's helpful to just open the attention to a wider field, receiving sensations throughout the body. As we include mind states, moods, emotions, like joy, and peacefulness, worry, sadness, feeling, perhaps dropping the attention in the body, and sometimes starting just to see if there is a contraction or a relaxation, expansion. Very simple. Sometimes it's not very clear, and that's okay. That's what is apparent. And checking how awareness is relating to experience. Is it resisting the experience, or is accepting, receptive, connection? Resistance is what's predominant, no problem. Sometimes we have the capacity to just be with resistance, just as it is, not taking it personal. It's feeling directly how resistance feels in the body. If you notice that there is like resistance to resistance, or in the form of tightening or constriction, it's skillful to move the attention away to a more neutral area in the body. And let the heart rest there. Get strong so it can face reality just as it is again. We get stable in this neutral place that we call our anchor. And it becomes like a dance of exploration and anchoring at times. With kindness and care, friendliness, worthiness, respect.
Thank you, Darine, for the lovely guidance. I thought I would give an abbreviated talk on dana and then see if there's any questions. Traditionally, the Buddhist discourses began with, "Thus have I heard." Thus have I heard, which is often an indication that it's the early Buddhist texts, the earliest teachings. And a good number of his discourses, if not the majority of the major discourses, always began with dana, laid the foundation with a generosity. Known as the graduated teaching. From generosity, he talked about sila, moral uprightness, ethical behavior. And then he might inspire the Sangha with talk of the devas and the heaven realms, which we all can experience from our Brahma Vihara practice when they're really peaking, maturing, or we really feel deeply at rest in the Brahma Vihara heart. And so each level he's dropping people into that generosity realm or body, and then into the sila, non-harming, the lifting their spirits with talks of the Brahma Vihara radiating devas, which we can also just internalize as our own psychological processes, rather than externalize a sense of devas in realms somewhere else. I find it most useful to bring it all into the immediacy of our experience. And then he would lay out the essence of the teachings, like the Four Noble Truths or the Eightfold Path, 7 Factors of Awakening, and so forth. So I was thinking yesterday about dana as I went on one of the few missions I've gone on in almost exactly a year, the year that I've been here. Google Maps took me to the wrong parking lot. So I ended up in a parking lot that looked like I'd never get out of. Somehow I got the bar to go up and I entered it. And then as I left to go to my meeting, there was no way I could tell that the bar to get out could possibly open with anything I had. There was a little machine there, but nothing worked. It wouldn't take the ticket so I could prepay. It wouldn't take a credit card. Anyway, the mission seemed like a big one, and that seemed like a relatively minor deal at the time, but I'd deal with later. I was the only car on that whole level of an expensive banking building downtown. And then I had to walk a half an hour to the Honolulu Harbor area and into a huge warehouse at one of the piers, the docking piers for cruise vessels and whatnot. And it's the first time I'd seen so many people gathered together in a year since I came back from Asia. There were hundreds of people in this warehouse, and everyone was there to give or receive a vaccine. And we were all very well held. Just dozens and dozens of care people, medical people, doctors, and everyone kind of almost one-on-one assisting you, taking you up to the line, and then doing the distancing. And as I've mentioned before, all social discourse happens through a muffled sound of one's voice, because everyone wears a mask, and the social distancing, and through eye contact, consistency of eye contact. And that's how it was, just from being sent from one person to the other, feeling guided, served, then in line, and then kind of checking in with my papers, forms, and so forth. And kind of each place I succeeded in doing the necessary work or fulfilling the identification process and so forth. I get a little badge, I get a little green dot, put it on my shirt, and I put it on the piece of paper I had. And so I was really actually enjoying all of this, because everyone is wearing masks, there's no loud voices, because of the solemnness of the event, people there getting life-saving vaccines, and people there because they were trained as a medical person or physician or public health person, to serve, to give. So I kind of went through all those processes, and the most intimate part of the exchange of being offered something, an injection, and contemplating the gift. This is how the Buddha spoke of generosity, that its potency depends on the wisdom we bring to giver, gift, and receiver. So the person wanted me to sit down in a chair kind of facing out, and he said, "Do you mind if you get your injection in your left arm?" And I said, "Oh, it's okay." And then I remembered a good friend of mine on the Big Island saying, "Well, when I get this injection, don't get it in my left arm, get it in my right arm." And that's a whole other story in itself. So I asked him if it was okay if I turned the chair around and got it in my right arm. And he was fine with that. And then, like the rest, asked some questions, went over the forms, and checked and double checked things. And the relationship, again, was sound, though a bit muffled. You could still hear and feel the tone of the words, the mood of the words, sound and eyes, light and sound was the primary medium of the exchange, of the contact of that part of the dana. And he did a little countdown before he did the injection, and I was just feeling my breath, paying attention. I didn't feel the injection at all. I said that he was really good at delivering that. And then just a little bit of friendly small talk, like how many of these injections does he give, like in a day? And he said, well, not many. He wasn't really supposed to be there. He works in another department. So he just sort of filled in. And besides, it was his birthday. And he laughed. And I laughed. And we only could tell by the muffled sounds of chuckling and the sustained eye contact, because it's sort of hard to have a conversation when you don't have lips to also read and micro movements to take in the communication and to offer it. So the sustained eye contact is of great value in communication and feeling this dana exchange. So I felt grateful for that. And then the following care, where you sit down for 15 minutes and a medical person comes and sees that you're sitting down and gives you another color dot into your shirt or to your paper. And they're waiting to see that it's okay, that everything is okay. And then after 15 minutes, I was free to go. And appreciate your coming. Thank you very much. And everyone on the way out, literally dozens, one person taking you, 20 or 40 feet to the next place. And then you follow that flag that you see that person holding down there. There's green flags, yellow flags, orange flags, blue flags, so all kinds of flags. And it's kind of like an obstacle course, but you're guided. And you're put in someone's hands each time. I feel grateful, and I thank them, and they thank me. They say, well, thank you for coming. And it's really genuine. It's really genuine because it is a solemn and critically important circumstance. Lives being saved, health being given, care being offered, generosity freely given. And so I took in the part of being a receiver as well, aware of the giver and their kindness and their care and the gift of medicine, and then my worthiness, to receive it. And exactly how the Buddha said we make giving the most powerful when we bring direct intuitive understanding to it, when we bring wisdom to giver, gift, and receiver, we see it as just one heart. We see it as one, and contemplating the giver who's freely offering something, letting go, serving, attending, giving their skills, aware of them as wanting the same thing that we all want, wanting the welfare of oneself and another, and to be healthy. And so to contemplate the worthiness of one who is giving, that act, that very sacred Dhamma act of letting go. So dana is the first and most important illustration of non-greed, of letting go, of non-attachment, of selflessness. There was a degree of selflessness I felt everywhere in that warehouse with all the hundreds of people, patients and medical personnel, all together. One thing that signaled that was, again, as I said, no loud voices. Voices are muffled anyway, but the pitch was just even and caring and both useful, helpful, supportive, very skillful speech, gentle, timely, all the ways the Buddha spoke about right speech. And also felt within that was the loving kindness, that they were givers of their knowledge, of their medicine, of their skills, and serving this group of hundreds of people coming all day long and having their 10 minutes of receiving the medicine and 15 minutes of making sure they're okay, and then carefully guiding them back out to, in my case, the journey back to the parking lot. And then the gift also, we bring an awareness to, a wisdom awareness to, not just conceptual thought reflection, but a real penetrating acknowledgement and feel for the gift itself. And a gift can be very simple. It can be a kind word, or a supportive, caring, compassionate word. It can be just offering food, offering flowers, something we made, some beautiful photograph that we might have taken, and we just show them. In this case, yesterday, it was the gift of medicine to protect the body from danger, from disease. So bringing that reflection, I felt the purity of the giver. That is, by purity, the selfless intention of just to do what he does really well and really carefully. And all along, it was a whole team. The doctors would come up and check on things, and other nurses and assistants, exchanging the needles and making sure everything was in order and in place. So I just sort of recognized what went in the care consciousness that went into the conditions of the giver giving what they were giving, and the medicine, the value of that, the potency of that, and then reflecting on myself and feeling if I could connect with my own goodness and that I deserve to be well. I deserve to receive this, take it in. There's always moments of question, you know, will I be okay? Will be a reaction? Will I feel sore? Will I have various symptoms? And yeah, up to 36 hours, you might feel some chills, might feel tired, achy, but usually nothing after that, you know, only rarely anything after that. That was good enough. That was reassuring for me. And I thought of something I had read by one of the biographers of Norman Rockwell, American painter, painted classically, American kind of lifestyle scenes, like a farming family with their farming gear and farming clothes and farming environment. They're all kind of happy pictures that kind of bring joy, you know, colors, flowers, the people. But what I was reflecting on, because I could see, for example, that there were people in the warehouse yesterday who were afraid or confused, you know, uncertain. And the staff was there to lift people's spirits, you know, to guide them, to make them feel safe, to make them feel comfort. So this biographer of Norman Rockwell, the classic pastoral American painter, said that he and his wife had lifelong challenges of depression, and they even moved to a certain place, Western Massachusetts, near a hospital where they could get care. In fact, he was, for a very long time, he was a patient of Erik Erikson, the great American psychologist and psychotherapist. And it was said that he worked up such a big bill with Erik Erikson that he had to do little side jobs of painting for Kellogg's cornflakes boxes to earn a little extra money to pay his therapist. But what struck me the most was when the biographer mentioned that Norman Rockwell painted his longing. In every picture, he was painting his longing. And he knew he was making people happy. He lived long enough to see the success of his paintings and the critical reviews of it. So he knew he was making people happy. And it definitely helped therapeutically with his lifelong challenge of depression. So I thought of that a lot and think of that when I think about, you know, the quality of dana, and when we ourselves, for example, are a giver and we try to feel the underlying motive. This is how we bring a wisdom awareness to what we do. The more wisdom, the more understanding, the more potent and powerful the act of giving, this parami of dana, and that's what sets up like this. So it puts out an energy field that's bound to come back. So we leave this wake as we move through life of a generosity surround. We give and we're given. And the gifts change nature, but they're meaningful in the case, particularly when we give with intention. We understand the volition of offering something in this selfless way is powerful, with a true intention of letting go completely. And we take care in what the gift is, whether it's the spoken word or the written word, or just think of what are the first words we speak of when we wake up in the morning, that we say to someone, or that we text or Zoom or chat. What are those words? What kind of gift are they? And are we helping to uplift someone? Are we offering someone our own paintings of our longings? Our longings to love and be loved unconditionally, to care, be cared for compassionately, unconditional compassion, to be safe and happy. All those forms, all those sort of intangible forms. And then if the gift is in the form of an object, the care we put into finding it, driftwood on the shoreline, or leaves from the forest, something we make or put together. However the form, it's infused with that it's an element of nature, and therefore in and of itself a sacred object, particularly as we have the intention, the volitional motivation of offering it to someone else with both no expectation of return. That's what makes it unconditional and selfless, but also with the desire that we uplift someone, we make them happy, without being attached to what form that takes. Maybe something visible or not visible, something we notice then and there, but we're not hanging on to the result. It's the equanimity portion of the Brahma Vihara. Act with all the energy and skill we have, and do what we have to do, or give what we have to give. Completely let go any attachment to the outcome, to the result, to the goal. And then to reflect on the person we're giving to, the receiver, also in as selfless and generous a way as possible, with that equanimity that is not judging them with what we may like or dislike, without characterizing them in any other way, that they're a deserving being with the same goodness that we try to connect with and abide in ourselves. And they're having the same longings of wanting to be happy, peaceful, liberated, to love and be loved. Those reflections can just take a few moments few seconds. With practice, we just see it in a nano moment, the intention of giving and the gift itself, its nature, its value as a package of words spoken and written, or a creation of some sort, a sacred object that we make sacred because we're making it a gift to give to someone. And then just feel all three of those come together. Our selfless intention, the act of letting go, which is non-greed in action. The most beautiful form of letting go, from perhaps the very earliest, simplest times of our ancestral history, is, one small band of our ancient hunter-gatherer ancestors would meet with another. And their first act was likely, and thought by evidence from anthropologists and archaeologists, to be a gift. It's an expression of safety, and friendliness, non-harm, care, and so forth. And then seeing how these come together in one heart. Giver, with that motivation in touch and feeling the motivation, before it might proliferate into the fabrication, the mind that complicates the uncomplicated, which is a definition of the papancha mind, proliferating mind, instead of just the purity of simplicity. In fact, it's said that pure giving, unconditional giving, or selfless giving, gradually removes the tendency to complicate the uncomplicated, to go into mental proliferation or fabrication with a lot of most of our experience, just to keep it on that level of simplicity, such as I felt yesterday on the Pier 2 warehouse. A lot of people, knowingly or unknowingly, were part of that one heart, as either a giver, taking care of the gifts of healing, of medicine, or and as a receiver, to graciously and with gratitude and with this sense of that we deserve to be healthy, that we deserve to be happy, that there's no issue with the fundamental core of worthiness, and that with that wisdom, there's no identification, there's no conceit there. It's empty of those forces of conceit and craving and wrong view of a self. We're just right there in that simplicity, not complicating the uncomplicated. So I walked back the half hour, reflecting on kind of what just happened, looking at all the colorful dots I had. There's a word I actually associate more with meditation than with anything else. That's called synthesia. And synthesia are a synthet. As meditators, I think we're all synthets. Whereas I experienced yesterday, the predominant stimulus, might be color or the touch of someone putting that color on me. but simultaneously, I could be hearing music. It's like a synth that might look at different letters, and when they look at different letters, they immediately associate a color with it. Like many people, for example, associate the letter A with red. And in meditation, when we're doing particularly like a self-retreat, sometimes we open our eyes and the color canopy, immediately upon seeing it, we're hearing sounds we think are associate feels that are coming out of it like a symphony, that those colors are producing the symphonic sounds. That's what the synesthesia is. And it can happen when they're just slightly altered from what is the norm of our consciousness, which I think is more like just bumbling along from one papancha experience to the next papancha experience. But when the mind moves away from that tendency of complicating the uncomplicated, then we can have these sort of multiple sense experience, like we're in the middle of a symphony, or like we're making a symphony. So I walked back alongside this major highway along the Honolulu Harbor, found the building, and it was kind of just as I left it. I was the only car, my rental car was the only car on the whole floor. The place seemed shuttered. I tried to get in from a door and there was no one. I took my paper and, had I gone to the right parking lot, if Google Maps had been correct, the parking was validated back at the vaccination place. So I got validated, but it was for the wrong ticket. So of course it wouldn't stick in anywhere. But I was only a few minutes in bewilderment and feeling some of these synesthesia moments where I'd hear sounds where there were colors or fragrances, where there were sensations, and all those things that can happen. And if you don't know that they happen in meditation, it's a little freaky. And then just then where I thought, no, I don't know what to do. Someone, a security person, walked out. And she was just like the people I left back in the warehouse. She immediately had all the passes and keys, and she took me inside the building, the bank building, and showed me how to use my ticket to find out how much, and then how to use my card. I mean, I was kind of fumbling around. She actually did it all for me, took the ticket and put it in, took the card and paid, guided me back out to these bank vault-like doors. And then I was free to go home. Free to go home. And it was really altogether kind of a lovely experience. And then I felt really grateful for the people among us, like Norman Rockwell, who likes to paint our longings and share them, understanding that from the deepest place, we have the same longings in our heart. That's my talk for today. Just a little bit of reflection of the first parami of dana, giving the gift, receiving, and learning how to bring that in a non-conceptual, direct wisdom, awareness, to feel and sense and understand what underlies unconditional giving, giving with no expectation, receiving unconditionally, the art of receiving, the purity, the selfless receiver, and the gift that it's imbued with the intention that it's been designated for. The gift may not, always be something like the medicine I received yesterday. Often it's just to lift the spirits of someone, to say in a quiet way, I know you're longing. I know you're also a painter of what you long for, and enjoy this flower, this rock, this poem, just as it is, not complicating the uncomplicated. So maybe there's a question or two.
If you have a question, you can click the raise your hand button under reactions, and then I can help unmute your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Can hear you, Richard. Hello.
Hi. I wonder if you're going to have to go back in a couple of weeks and do this all over again.
3 weeks, 21 days, and I look forward to it.
Did you keep the colored stickers?
They're still on my shirt, hanging in the closet. I have some in my papers over here, though.
Well, I have to wait 2 weeks to get mine, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was like a kind of silent celebratory energy there. More celebratory than solemn. I know I used the word solemn, but I didn't mean that in a way that was in any way toward the morbid. More solemn as in sacred. Just because of the quality of people's presence and connection and what they were there to do and what they were there to give and what they were there to receive and so forth. So it was all in all a good experience, especially after a year of, I mean, actually, I came here a year ago to a completely empty airport and a completely empty airplane that I flew on from Japan. I was the only passenger. And then yesterday was the most people I've ever seen. It seems like, since I went to a Bob Dylan concert or something. That's how quiet we get in this lockdown, shutdown, mask wearing culture, where muffled sounds and light are our communication form. So yeah, Richard,
Mhm.
in 2 weeks, you'll be back.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Quinn,
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear about your experience because I have the same thing. When I went to that warehouse and received the shot, I could perceive like all the kindness,
Yeah.
all the caring of the staff. And I felt so emotional and I felt so grateful. And when I left that place, it's like it lifted my spirits. And
Yeah.
like such a contrast over the last year, all these depressing news. And I felt so hopeful and I felt so happy that day.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, you could park in that pure area instead of having to walk so far.
I saw people parking there, but I didn't know if they had special passes
You
or
can. You can.
without a special pass. I can
Right.
just drive in there.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I plan an alteration to my next journey there.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes, you're welcome. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Stephen Smith. I just, I feel like you must be such a special person to go through this process that's happening to all these people to get something checked off the list, you know, to do their duty or to do their thing for themselves, and to just notice this universal spirit of gratitude and giving. I feel touched in a real, like the spirit of deep wisdom, awareness imbued with kindness. And I feel like it changed the quality of this day for me here, this part of the universe, to receive the gift of your story, which was real. And I feel like it's a gift to the whole world, that you're able to hold it and perceive it that way. So Anu Modami.
Because we're all practicing to reduce the tendency to complicate the uncomplicated, that is to drop in to simplicity. We're all special.
Stephen, it looks like Jen has a question. Jen, are you able to unmute yourself, or I'm trying to find you on the...
Yes, I can. I'm here.
Oh, hi, Jen.
Go for it.
Hi, thanks for your story. Before I ask my question, I just want to add that both me and my partner were able to access the vaccine through Indigenous health clinics, and it felt like such a double gift to receive the vaccine there, especially given our very hard history with settler colonialism. So I had a little bit of your experience, maybe not quite as much wisdom awareness. My question has to do with a little bit about lineages of practice. I've been feeling really drawn to the Mahasi Sayadaw style of practice. In honor of that, I've started to say the chants, the refuges, and the precepts in Pali in the morning, which has been really sweet. And it's kind of the first time that I felt connected to a lineage, and it's been really lovely. And recently I sat with Kamala Masters and Stephen Smith and was noticing a little difference in the style of teaching. With you and Michelle, I'm noticing a lot of attention on the Brahma Viharas and cultivating kind attention or sort of awareness infused with these other qualities. And with Kamala and Stephen, I was noticing much sort of more attention to the noting. And I found the noting to be helpful, especially as someone who is very prone to mental proliferation. So I'm just curious about those two different styles and if you have reflections on when one might be more useful versus the other.
They're not separate at all.
Yeah.
When we often offer, Michelle and I, the very light style of mental labeling, almost like a whisper, when it's helpful in connecting with your meditation object, whether it's a sensation or a sound or a thought or an emotion, awareness itself or one of the Brahma Viharas, that just that little bit of a momentum of using the conceptual skillfully, because we use the conceptual all the time. So how can we make our best use of it in Dhamma practice? Well, sometimes it's just to name something. Like if we name an emotion that we're not actually fully aware of our feeling yet in the body, we might try a few names, a few labels, and then suddenly just hit it. You know, like, oh, grief. And that sort of does it. That word has these reverberating effects on our system, and we drop right into feeling the grief and the sensations of it in the body. So that's how we offer the use of what's called mental labeling. And so, I mean, we've all had the same teachers, so it's just different personal style and the way Michelle and I have blended over 4 decades is just because we've been doing it together for 4 decades.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So no difference. And you yourself have the wisdom and are the best determiner of how much and with what cadence you use that mental labeling and when it's time to drop it and just go free flow, as my teacher would describe it, Upandita, free flow, natural mind. There were times when he'd take away any mental use of, like in the Brahma Vihara phrases, once he felt I was on the, like being picked up by the wave as a surfer is, then to completely let go and just balance with it. No more paddling is necessary. Just get up on the board or tuck into the wave if you're body surfing and let the wave do the work. Let the process do the work. So not to be afraid to use the mental labeling, not to be afraid to let it go. In different meditations, different days, different set of conditions, mental moods. Each time we have to read it differently, you know, and what feels appropriate for the moment, what feels the most skillful. Just even ask ourselves that question and allow a wisdom moment to come forth and determine what we do. Good questions.
Stephen, do we have time for one more? It looks like David has a question.
Yes. Hello, David.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
It's good to see you again.
Yes, good to see you.
Thank you for your talk. It is quite transformative for me because I'm one of those people in your warehouse who was a little nervous.
Yes.
I have acute chemical sensitivity,
Yes.
and so the vaccines are, some view them as, liberation and freedom, and for me, there's a note of concern.
Yes.
So I'm practicing with fear,
Mm-hmm.
as Tara Brach has been very helpful with her Dharma talks around this. But I'm just wondering if between now and the time my turn comes up, which here in Canada is a little farther behind where you are in the States, probably a month or a month and a half. Do you have practice suggestions about cultivating? I can cultivate dana. The focus on fear is sometimes, it can be helpful, but it can also seem a little inward looking, I guess. Yours is very outward looking. Your talk, it's dana, it's expansive and relational. And the work with fear, and hello fear, come in and have tea, and it's very, it can be very inward.
Yes, it can be. And it is another approach. In preparing, I wouldn't necessarily consider doing the dana thing I did yesterday, the dana meditation. I'd say a fraction of the motivation to find something to contemplate on that wasn't complicating the uncomplicated. Part of the motivation was I had a vaccine a few months ago, the very first one in my life that I had a reaction to.
Mm.
And I had, I got sick afterwards. In fact, that's why I asked if I could change the chair's direction and have it in my other arm.
Mm-hmm.
Because the vaccine I had in this arm, and many people don't have a reaction to these vaccines. Mine was a shingles vaccine, and I had the old one years ago. I didn't expect any reaction, but that was the condition at the time that I did have a reaction, and I have to get another one of those. So part of me, I said maybe I'm superstitious, but this is the arm I had a reaction to a couple of months ago. Are you okay that I get it in my right arm? And he was fine with that, although I saw him being busy writing down that I had a reaction to a previous vaccine. And he said, well, I was going to hold you for 30 minutes, but I see that you're probably going to be okay. So you only have to stay for 15 minutes. So I felt I survived that. When I listened to you, I think how I would prepare was I'd probably personally focus more on one or two Brahma Viharas. I mean, the opposite of fear would be metta. Or if you want to hold it a little bit, like a homeopathic dosage, just get a little bit of the fear to build up your immune system and mitigate it altogether. Compassion for for the pain of holding the fear. So metta, because it's the opposite of fear, metta for the people you're going to who are administering the service, metta for yourself for the courage to go, to come and be there.
Yep.
You know, all the ways in which you can find metta are just having a metta object, something like a stone that you carry with you to remind you that metta is connection. And when you have eye contact, that's metta. And when there's voice contact, even if it's muffled with masks, that's also metta. Just find ways in which between one or two of the Brahma Viharas, metta or compassion, or metta and equanimity, that you practice ahead of time, imagining yourself being there. Go through it. A mentor a long time ago had me go through a process that I, with imagination and practice with the mentor, that I knew I had to go through with colleagues, and would be, for me, my type, which is very introverted and shy, and often I didn't learn to kind of speak up, you know. But I did the practice with that particular upcoming meeting in mind, and going over, you know, what would be most difficult and what I might hear and what I might have to say. Then that made a huge difference. That it was a very successful process I went through when I went to the continent and went to that, had the interchange with that colleague. So those come to mind.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. And like, I think we're not alone. I mean, I had my fear, and I'm sure half the room there yesterday could just tell by how some people sat quietly and alone. And also the number of health practitioners who kept going to check on everyone. In reflection, I'd say that most of us had fear, as well as whatever supports we have. And we have a big array of Dhamma tools to use. So just try it out, David, try it out, but pretend that's going to happen. You know, have someone kind of approach you with a pen, and imagine that that's going to be your injection, and how are you going to deal with it? Maybe swat it away at first.
All right. Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank everyone for your presence today, for your goodness and your courage and your generosity. It all shows from the practice you do and the care you do. And so just take some moments here to look around at all the people who've come into your space today, that sit next to you with their generosity and loving kindness.